Greetings, my friend and earthly neighbor, and welcome to the final week in what I call Fantastic February. And you're about to realize why it's fantastic. This week, a full moon in Virgo will allow you to shed your old karmic self and embrace the new. It may not feel pretty, but in the end, you're going to feel fantastic. From my smartphone to yours, keep streaming for your weekly Namaste Today. Welcome to Namaste Today, an enlightening way to start your day. I'm your host and spiritual life coach, Sensei Christopher Witecki. Welcome back, my friend. Namaste. Well, if things have been serious and intense for you, you're not alone, friend. We're in the high karmic tides of the Pisces season. Pisces energy is the energy that connects to our soul and our soul purpose. And most of us on the planet this year in Pisces are shifting our soul story. We're moving away from the story we were born to and moving into the story we were born to live. And I have to tell you, that's much easier said than done. In fact, last week was probably one of the more difficult weeks of the year because we were kind of jiggling loose the old story. I called it a bipolar week. There were days when you were happy, there were days when you were sad. That was basically you flipping between the old story and the new story. This week, a full moon in Virgo allows you to shed that old story for good. And it's an intense full moon. It will oppose 5 planets in a stellium in Pisces. And if you're new to astrology, I'll just tell you, that's a lot of gravity. So this week, I'm going to walk you through the build up to this full moon. Talk about how we have 2 grand trines and a yod leading up to it, and give you the depth information for how to handle the week. Then later in your tea time, I'm going to dive into all 12 signs and talk about what the full moon means for you. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Monday, February 26th to Friday, March 2nd, 2018. Looking at your 5-day moodcast. Examining the week at a glance, it is a slow build up to the full moon on Thursday and then recovery on Friday. Let's take a look. On Monday, it's sunny and certain. Step 8 ends up ruling the day, and a moon in Cancer affirms your decision. On Tuesday, it's sunny and inspired. The moon shifts into Leo and grand trines with Black Lilith. On Wednesday, it's sunny and super passionate as a grand trine with Uranus and Mars heat up the day and you settle to what you want to manifest. And then on Thursday, it's sunny with powerful healing. A full moon in Virgo provides the shedding of your karma. And then on Friday, it's sunny and expanding as you open your eyes with the moon in Virgo to a new world. Well, as you can hear, this next week is going to be intense, especially with that 5-planet stellium. In our next segment, I'm going to walk you through the week and get deeper on these grand trines. Taking a sneak peek at the upcoming week, I'm coining this week Shedding Karma. Now, first, let's start with what karma is. In my opinion, karma is spiritual memory. That's it. That your soul remembers past lives that you have lived. And a lot of people feel like karma is tit for tat. In other words, if you do something bad in your last life, you're going to have something bad happen to you in this life. That's not really, I think, the way it works. What I think the way it works is, in this life, you remember your past lives at a deep subconscious level. So if you were bad in your past life, then in this current life, you subconsciously remember that you were once bad. And because of this, you judge yourself and do sort of reincarnation reenactments of your past life. You use the current players, the modern technology, the modern life to recreate a similar condition where you get punished if you were bad. Now, you would only be punished if you're a person who feels guilty for being bad. If you're a person who doesn't feel guilty for being bad and doesn't judge being bad, then you would be what we call a bad seed. Okay, so you'd be one of those kids that's always acting out and not having a care about it because your past life memory was that you were bad and that's okay and fine with you. A lot of people have karma where they had fantastic past lives, and for whatever reason, they decide to be reborn into a life where they're not wealthy or they're not famous or they're not royalty. And so they have the karma, the spiritual memory of being important. And so they end up having a lot of depression and feeling bad about themselves because they can't understand why everyone just doesn't love them for no reason. They can't understand why life isn't easy. They have this karmic expectation that things should be great. So most people live subconsciously in their karma. In fact, from age 0 to age 30, to your first Saturn return, that entire first 30 years, in my research with clients, is nothing but past life reenactment. So I think we get a full preview in our first 30 years of every important, significant life we have lived. So if you, for instance, died from a horse stomping on you in one lifetime, then maybe around age 7, you'll fall off your bike and break your leg. Okay? The whole point is you recreate a scenario that's similar, that causes the same emotional grief, only in this life, it doesn't kill you. You get past it. And so in this first 30 years, we basically rebuild our entire karmic history with little karmic reenactments of past life tragedies and also past life joys. A lot of people, for instance, in high school, you know those kids in high school who were popular and you were like, why are you popular? You're not smart, you're not funny. You know what I mean? Like, how did this person become popular? And it's because, oh, they were popular in their past life. And so they reenacted it in high school. They were prom king or prom queen. And as we all know, a lot of times those prom king and prom queens don't end up doing much after high school, right? Like, because that was a past life memory. They were acting out of their subconscious. They were doing it. After age 30, from that point forward, you're kind of free in the sense that you have the ability to create whatever you want. But most human beings don't meditate, don't take time for themselves, lose themselves in smartphones, lose themselves in TV. Basically, most people stay subconscious. They don't become aware of their reality. They don't become aware of the patterns. They don't choose to opt out of the insanity. And so most people continue to replay their karma between age 30 and age 60, which is your second Saturn return. Most people. And I would say even in the most enlightened people that I know, it's still like 50-50. You know what I mean? Like, that's as much. And I think that's where the universe, where the human population is as far as being awake. But every now and then, God universe gives humanity a nudge. And that's what this week is. This week is a powerful gravitational nudge to wake up and see the repeating patterns in your life, to recognize what you keep doing, which is described as insanity, when you know how it's going to turn out and you do it again, and respond differently. Those are the magic words. Respond differently. So if you find yourself this week in a karmic situation where, like, here I am again, arguing with my wife again about this, or here I am telling my kid once again, the way you break the karma is you don't respond the same way you usually respond. And that starts with how you respond to yourself. So if your response to yourself is to get angry, you first got to respond differently. Like, I'm not going to get angry this time. That's how you start to break the cycle. And then you want to respond differently to the people outside of yourself, to the events outside of yourself. And that basically breaks the story. In fact, when you respond differently to one of those fights or one of those situations, you'll see the other person be like, they won't know what to do because you just went off script. You know what I mean? Like, and they don't know how to improv. But life is improvisation. Life is creation in the moment. So this week, the universe is going to help all of us shed that karmic story, to let it go and let it flow forever. It's going to give us the gravitational forces to move on. And there's a lot of planetary help going on, so to speak. One of them is a stellium. Okay, we have a 5-planet stellium going on this week. A stellium is when 2 or more planets are in what we call conjoining. So they're within a certain degrees of orbs with each other. They overlap. Their gravity overlaps. What this represents are states of inner awareness. If you're not aware, you have 12 different conscious states within you. Those are the 12 zodiac signs. 12 conscious states. Each of these states is responsible for a different part of reality. When you have 5 of them all joining force, it's kind of like your inner Congress, the part of you that rules inside of you. Your inner Congress forms a political party. And that political party in this case is in Pisces. These 5 planets are in Pisces. So your inner self is all coming together. And when they all come together, you begin to realize certain things in your life. Because a lot of the reason why people are asleep is because they're fractioned. Their mind's this way, their heart's this way, their emotions are that way. There's never any alignment. There's never any wholeness. There's never any oneness. But with this stellium, the universe is pushing 5 parts of yourself to talk to each other and to compare notes. And that's when you can start comparing notes with your mind and your heart and your feelings, etc. And you start to say, you know, this is insanity. I keep doing the same thing with my wife. I keep doing the same thing with my husband. I keep saying the same thing to my kid. And because you're talking to yourself finally, you get it. Aha, I see the pattern. I'm done with this shift, right? So this week, what's connecting? Your heart, represented by the sun, your psychic intuition, represented by Neptune, your thoughts, represented by Mercury, your ability to open up and receive, which is a whole nother conversation we'll talk about, but that's represented by Venus, and your sense of integrity, which is represented by Chiron. So your heart and integrity, just the sun and Chiron alone, tells you that we're going to shape up or ship out this particular week. And what happens this week is these 5 parts of yourself all oppose how you feel. And how you feel is going to be in Virgo. And it's going to be a full moon in Virgo, which means full emotion, volume all the way up. And if you're not familiar, Virgo is reality. It is karma. It is the test of integrity or not integrity. So we will feel this week whether or not we are in integrity and we are not in integrity. And this feeling of being in or not being in will directly oppose this 5-planet Congress on the other side. And it's from this powerful realization of our feelings of like, this sucks, and the 5 parts of us going, yeah, well, I'm starting to see a pattern here. That is your opportunity to shed. That is your opportunity to wake up and say, this is over. I'm not playing this game anymore. Now, adding to this week's intensity is that each day is a 2-step day, okay? Basically, with the way the Earth goes around the sun, we usually experience 1 step per 24 hours. It does get a little faster in the summer, so a little less than 1 step. It does slow down on certain times, depending on where the Earth is in its orbit. But by the way things float around, when we change step numbers or change degrees, we change which conscious awareness we are aware of. And right now in North America, we are waking up to 1 step number and then very quickly moving to another. In Asia and Europe, okay, they're waking up to a step number and then at the end of the day, they're changing to another. What this means for your life experience is it's very exhausting because you live 2 steps in a day. And I have to say, whatever step number you wake to is the ruling step. So if you wake to step 1, for instance, and then it moves to step 2, step 1 is your heart, step 2 is your feelings. Even though we move into step 2, you'll feel a lot of stuff, but your heart is still the most sensitive part of the day because whatever step you wake to is the ruling step. So this week, we're going to go through a lot of karmic processing. On Monday, we wake up to step 7. So we wake up feeling very spiritual. But then as the day moves on, we go to step 8, which means we're ready to make a decision. The moon will be in Cancer on Monday. And so we're going to feel really deeply a lot of the things that have been bugging us for a long time. When the moon was in Cancer, you suddenly can't ignore certain feelings. Other times, when the moon's in different signs, you can ignore certain feelings and be like, I'm not going to let that get to me. When the moon's in Cancer, you're like, it just totally overwhelms you. It's super heavy. And there's a grand trine in water, which means you're going to really feel everything. You're going to feel Jupiter, which is where the lines are, and you're going to be like, I've had enough with this, I've had enough with that. And the third trine is to Mercury and Venus. So I think Monday is a very powerful day of interchange. You may not tell the world, but inside you're starting to see the karma. You're starting to see what needs to change. Tuesday, the moon moves into Leo, okay? So I think Tuesday's a sunny and inspired day. We wake up with our decisions like, yep, yesterday I decided enough is enough. I am done with that person. Then by the afternoon or whatever you are in the world, it moves to step 9 and you're like, okay, I got to kick this person out. You're like, I got to get rid of them. So you're going to feel on Tuesday that you were inspired to move forward. And what's interesting about Tuesday is we have a temporary yod between Black Lilith, the sun, and the moon in Leo. So one thing about Tuesday is you will have to face some fear of change, okay? And that fear of change might be emotional discomfort. Most people stay in bad situations because they're afraid of emotionally coping with what comes next. And so they'd rather be beaten than be kicked off the island. They'd rather be harassed than have to go find another job. And that's really it. And what that comes down to is you're bad at self-nurturing. You're bad at coping. And that's why my personal Sensei service, by the way, it's all focused on how to cope, how to self-nurture. Because if you can deal with anything emotionally, you can deal with anything in life, right? So Tuesday is one of those days. Tuesday is one of those days where you were all gung-ho to kick that person out, but then you're like, oh, I'm going to have to find an apartment. I'm going to have to find a job. And so that job with Black Lilith could hold some people back. So you could theoretically, miss the bus on Tuesday if you're not careful. Wednesday, I think we've made our decision, and it can go two ways. If on Tuesday you got afraid and you pulled back, then on Wednesday, the fear will consume you and drive you nuts. So you're going to become so afraid that you can't take it. You're going to realize you have no choice but to act. So I think the universe is going to shove and push you anyways. If you chose to leave the karmic situation on Tuesday and you faced your fears on Tuesday, then I think on Wednesday you're like, life is amazing. You're going to be singing. You're going to feel very passionate. We have a grand trine in fire between Mars, Uranus, and the moon in Leo. So I kind of liken Wednesday to Diana Summer's I'm Coming Out. Remember that song? Like, I'm coming out. So I think Wednesday is going to be amazing. You're going to feel totally great. Thursday is when we take the medicine, right? Thursday is the full moon in Virgo. So what happens is we're feeling great on Wednesday. But then on Thursday, it's like, oh my God, this is going to suck having to move. Oh my God, this is going to suck having to tell her. So Thursday, things get very intense. The moon is full in Virgo. The only thing I can say about Thursday is this too shall pass. Just move with it. Keep going. Step 10, I manifest, starts the day. Step 11, which is I become or integrity, is the step number of the full moon. And I'll talk more about this in the tea time, but step 11 was the same lunar eclipse we had in January in Leo, step 11. So God Universe is hammering on integrity right now. And so anything out of integrity on this full moon will probably fall out, all right? So expect the unexpected, and you'd be surprised. A lot of people can totally fake it for a long time, but after this full moon, they won't be able to keep up the facade anymore. It's going to fall apart. So the full moon is on Thursday. And then on Friday, I call it sunny and expanding. You wake up on Friday feeling pretty good, and then we move to step 12 with the moon in Virgo, and I think the universe is going to say, okay, now what? You're like, all right, I just faced the big bad dragon. Little Red Riding Hood just killed the wolf. Now what do we do? So I think Friday will be kind of just a little fish out of water. Things will feel strange. And that's one of the things too. You have to self-nurture because if you break a karmic cycle, it will feel different. It will feel weird. You will feel out of place because it's new. All right. So over the weekend, some people could slip back into the old karmic situation. They can make up with that abusive person. They could go back to that abusive job simply because they're having a hard time emotionally coping with this positive change. All right, now with that said, I want to dive into what this full moon means for all 12 signs. So go steep yourself some tea. Let's have our weekly tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is the Virgo full moon. Now, as I mentioned in my last segment, this full moon is an intense one. The universe is giving us a big karmic shove to shed off our old karmic patterns and open our heart to a new bright opportunity. And I want to talk about how this full moon is going to affect all 12 signs so you have clarity. And of course, you should listen to your rising sign too, because we're talking about karma. We're talking about your multi-lifetime story here. And so I think it's important to know how both stories play out. Now first, let's just get a little deeper on exactly what the planets are doing. The full moon is on Thursday, March 1st. So we start March with a full moon. It apexes around 8 p.m. Eastern Time in North America, which is 5 p.m. Pacific Time. So that's when it reaches its full intensity. And because we are shedding off karmic situations, this is one of those full moons where you may hear about people getting into car accidents, people getting into bitter fights and breaking up. A lot of intense change happens because the universe is encouraging people to move on to the story they were born to and leave this old karmic patterning behind. So sometimes people have to manifest pretty dramatic situations for them to have the liberty to leave, basically. And this is a sabotage sort of maneuver. Also, a full moon in Virgo, probably, I'm sorry to say this to the Virgos, but it feels like crap. Like, Virgo is hyper-awareness of every detail. So a full moon is just like, oh my God. You know, like when someone's like tapping their pencil on the desk at school or something? A full moon in Virgo makes those little things like sound so loud. You know, it's like, so everything just gets so intensified in reality. And you just are forced to look at it like every little detail and speck and crack. And it's like, you know, and basically the universe is going, see, do you see what you're doing? You know, it's just like, ah. And so there's a lot of desire to escape, you know. So a lot of people who have, you know, if you have friends or family members who abuse substances, this is one of those potential overdose times, okay? People can overdose in a full moon in Virgo because the sun is in Pisces. They want to escape, and the moon in Virgo turns up the conditions of what they want to escape from. So keep your eye on the people that are on the edge, okay? Now, on the actual day of the full moon, Thursday, the sun, as I mentioned, is at step 11. So our heart is seeking integrity. That's really important. Integrity is, I have to be who I am, I have to be true to myself, and I have to have that truth in the world. That's what step 11 is. I'm true to myself, I'm true to the world. That's the 211. That's the 2 ones, okay? I love myself. I love who I am in the world. So the sun is saying, my heart must be in integrity. And the sun is in Pisces, so it's saying my soul must be in integrity. And that's really deep because our soul is basically the premise of what we incarnate from. So if you start from the soul with integrity, that means everything outside, everything the soul incarnates as, that all comes with it. All right, so our soul must be integrity. That is conjoined in a stellium, a spiritual political party, okay, to Neptune at step 13. Step 13, all right, is an innovative step. It is innovation. It is breakthrough. All right, so we're all up for a spiritual Neptune breakthrough, step 13. And our heart is seeking a breakthrough. Our heart wants to be at a higher degree than it is. Then conjoining Neptune, we actually have the imaginary spot of the part of fortune. So the part of fortune conjoins Neptune. And I'm not going to go into the depth of what a part of fortune is today. It's basically an algorithm that involves the sun and the moon. And you subtract the sun from the moon depending on the day or the night. But it basically is a place where special magic is going to happen due to the heavenly influences. So this says that we are blessed on this full moon to have our breakthrough happen. Then we have Mercury, our thoughts. And guess what degree Mercury's at? Mercury's at step 22. That means dimensional shift. So your mind will go through a dimensional shift. What's a dimensional shift? It's like, the best example I have for a dimensional shift is a person who thinks life is horrible and they're poor and nothing's going to happen. And then in one moment they realize they had a rich uncle who left them everything. And it's like, what? Suddenly a dimensional shift. Everything you thought doesn't exist anymore. Erase, erase, erase. Okay, so Mercury at step 22 says dimensional shift. Then connected is Venus at step 23. Step 23 is the mastermind degree. It's in Pisces, so it says we're going to mastermind where our soul needs to be. Venus is what you're willing to open up to. Okay, so what you're willing to open up to is a big part of consciousness. You can say that you want to be a rock star, but if you're scared to death on stage, you can't open up to being a rock star. Your head may want it, but you can't open up to it. So having Venus there says, not only will the mind want it at step 22, but we'll be ready to open up to it immediately. There will be no inner resistance to opening up to it, which is huge. And then Venus conjoins Chiron, okay? And Chiron is the integrity planet. It is the ruler of step 11. It is the creator of Virgo. So you have the master of Virgo, Chiron, and the master of Pisces, Neptune, both in this Congress that says, Wateki, it is time to upgrade, or insert your name, right? Okay. Now at the same time, just to add a little more drama here, Mars will be at step 20 Sagittarius. So that means that our ego will feel that the story is speeding up now. The story is moving on to a new chapter. We can feel change in the air. It's electric, okay? It's almost like one of those hot summer days where it's really humid and you can feel there's a thunderstorm coming, but you don't see it yet. That's what it's going to feel like as far as our own personal stories and the story we're born to live. Jupiter is at step 23 Scorpio, which means at the same time, we're going to have to master architect all of our boundaries. So it's like, well, if you leave the abusive husband, then you're going to need a new house, and need a new car, and you need this. Everything has to be redrawn. Every map has to be redrawn. So I think we're going to feel that all of our maps have to be redrawn. Saturn is at step 7 Capricorn, which means we are taking responsibility, Saturn, for our soul, Pisces, step 7. So again, powerful alignment. And then finally, Black Lilith is at step 12, which means at this whole moment, the fears we are facing is the fear of the unknown. And that's what step 12 is. That's the fear you'll have to face is, I don't know how I'm going to get on. I don't know how things are going to happen. Now, just because you don't know doesn't mean you're not going to succeed. You know what I mean? Like, in fact, I didn't know tons of stuff and I've been doing okay, but there will be fear of unknown. And Sensei says, don't let that stop you, okay? Face that fear. Remember times when you had unknown ahead of you and you prevailed, all right? So looking at this, I'm going to go through all 12 signs. Again, it counts for your sun sign and your rising sign. I'm going to talk about what the 5-planet stellium, 6 if you include the part of fortune, what this is a shift of, what you are shifting, and then what the moon in Virgo is calling for a healing. Okay, so emotionally you'll be like, oh, this needs to heal, so therefore this needs to shift. And that is basically how it unfolds. And as always, I will put up here on my screen the sign that I am talking about. So if you're pressed for time, because I know my shows are long these days, you can always fast forward to your sign or your rising sign or your loved ones. Okay. Starting with Aries. Aries, the purebreds of the zodiac, are basically having, with that 5-planet stellium, a shift of faith. Okay? It's very hard for Aries. They like tangible things. They like things they can count. They like things they can count on. They tend to be kind of materialistic in that sense. And they're being told, you can't count on anything that can be countable. Okay? It's time to have a shift of your inner faith. And this shift of inner faith will come from the fact that their life feels sick. Now, it could be because of the work you live in, or the house you live in, or the body you live in is literally sick. But you will feel like your lifestyle is sick in this full moon. It is not well. It is diseased. And so it's going to force you to have a shift in faith, which is like, well, maybe I can heal my life. Maybe I can move on out of this job. Maybe I can, find a person that can heal my ailment. So the being sick of a current lifestyle triggers them to have a shift of faith. That's Aries. Taurus. Tauruses are going to have a shift of their social focus. Okay? So Tauruses have focused on lots of things. I talked about this last week. Tauruses felt obligated to certain social functions, blah, blah, blah. And what's going to cause Tauruses to have a shift of their social focus is their heart is not going to be happy with the way things are going. So Tauruses might go in a little bit of a mopey bull depression where there's like, nothing, I don't have love, I don't have my things. So basically the Taurus is going to realize, I've been putting out milk for everyone all this time. I haven't gotten any chocolate milk of my own. So the Taurus is going to feel their heart wanting to be happy, okay? And because their heart wants to be happy, they're like, that's it, I'm changing my public plans. I am shifting what I do in the world. I'm shifting where I put my time and my energy. I'm shifting who I give time and energy because my heart wants to be happy. Now, some Tauruses might like meet someone that they fall in love with, like, you know, like the Beverly Hillbillies, and then suddenly their life is changing because they fell in love with this person who's rich. But that's like 1% versus 99%. I think most Tauruses will be unhappy with the milk and they'll be shifting the pasture. Geminis. Geminis are going to have a shift of their career goals, okay? And this is not just what they want to be when they grow up. This is what makes a good career anyways, okay? So it's like, a lot of Geminis, a good career is one that ends at 5. And then they can go home and play video games or go home and read books or go home and talk to people or text on their phone. So a lot of Geminis, what they said was a good career might be redefined. And the reason why they will be inspired to change their career or their future focus is because emotionally Geminis will not be happy. They will emotionally feel like, this is not working for me. I don't feel happy. I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. I don't feel solid. And so since Geminis will not feel solid, they're going to go, you know, maybe I should be looking for a career that comes with free living. Maybe I should be looking for a career that's in a sunny place. And so they're going to have a shift in their career goals and their decision-making protocol based on how they feel. Cancers. Cancers are going to shift what they believe, okay? They're going to shift what they believe in life. And Cancers, they've been caught in the karma of accepting their family's beliefs. That's their thing. They tend to accept what their family tells them, and they live in those beliefs, and they go out in the world and they realize this isn't working. I don't know how mom made this work. I don't know how dad made this work, but it's not working. And what's going to inspire them to change what they believe is going to be their mind. They're probably going to go into one of those dark side of the moon Cancer trips. If you know what I'm talking about, you know Cancers. They're going to go to the dark side of the moon, or they're just going to see all darkness and be unhappy. I'm not saying they're going to be dark. I'm just going to say they're going to get a little depressed. Like, it's going to be their mind going, this isn't working. I'm not happy with any of this. And it's going to be because that's like, well, maybe you need to believe something else. Maybe you don't have to be with this person. Maybe you don't have to stay with this family. Maybe what you've been believing is what's holding you back. So for Cancers, it's very internal. They'll probably be moody, and they're going to have a shift of beliefs based on some sort of mental issue. They're going to be seeking mental sanity. They're going to want to feel sane, and that's going to mean change your beliefs. Leos. Leos are going to change their comfort zones, okay? And boy, do Leos fall into certain comfort zones. Leos are the royalty of the zodiac. They love things to be just the way they want. They don't like getting wet. They don't like cloudy days. There's all sorts of things they don't like, right? And so their life stays stuck in certain situations because they are emotionally comfortable there, and they'd rather stay in the crappy situation than get out of the hot tub and be cold for a few minutes as they walk to the house, okay? And so they literally won't go in the hot tub because they don't want to feel cold for that 30 seconds between the hot tub and the house, okay? That sort of thing. So what's going to happen is Leos are going to lose their self-esteem. They're going to feel not confident. They're going to feel not valuable. They're going to feel like they're not fertile, that they can't produce, that they can't create and manifest. They might be afraid of money. They might be afraid of jobs. And what this full moon is going to say is, hey, if you want to heal and feel self-confident, you're going to have to be willing to get some goosebumps and get a little wet. You're going to have to be willing to go outside of your comfort zone and try to cope with different trust and boundary issues. And if you can do that, then you will feel very valuable. So I think Leos have a shift of boundaries in order to heal self-esteem. Virgos. Now, Virgos, of course, are one of the most affected. Virgos and Pisces, right? So full moon in Virgo. Virgos are going to go through a shift in their relationships. So Virgos have stayed stuck in certain relationships. I talked about this last week. You might watch last week's show because I go real deep into this. But they basically have this self-hate relationship with themselves. And so because they're always critical of themselves and they hate themselves, they go manifest a bunch of relationships where people hate them. Like, that's what it is. Like, and that's them manifesting how they treat themselves. So they're going to change not being in those relationships anymore. And it's going to be because their ego is going to get pissed. So I'm predicting Virgos to be pissed off on this full moon. Pissed off, that's it. They can't take it anymore. They might have a little meltdown. They might become a hot mess because they just can't deal with being miserable in certain relationships anymore, okay? And so they're going to shift their rules of what they tolerate and increase their self-compassion so that they can feel in integrity, period. They're going to realize they don't feel an integrity by tolerating this shift, okay? So they're going to seek integrity. This full moon hits them in the house of ego. That's why there might be anger. And Virgos, be careful. If you're repressing that stuff, you could manifest an accident, okay, or an injury. So be very careful. Don't repress it. Go ahead and express it, okay? That's a good saying. Libras. Libras are shifting their daily lifestyle. And this is, I had some Libras come back to me and talk about my last week's show. When I say daily lifestyle, I mean the way you live in your shoes every day. So in your shoes, are you in your head all day? Are you worrying all day? Are you emotional all day? Are you zoned out all day? What is your day like? What is your day-to-day reality like? Okay? Now, I think Libras have been kind of shaken in their day-to-day reality. Most Libras I know are kind of worried about how things are going to turn out all the time. They're always overcompensating, trying to make things better. And as a result, they don't have a lot of faith that things will work out. So this full moon is going to call for Libras to get some solid faith, okay? And in order to feel faithful, they're going to have to make some changes with how they live in the moment. Now, that does include their work. It does include their coworkers. It does includes everything you call reality, Libra. Everything goes into that. But you're going to probably be filled with fear or worry, and that's going to trigger you in the full moon to make some changes in your daily life and how you live moment to moment. Scorpios. Scorpios are shifting their heart's attitude, and this is huge. So what's going to happen is Scorpios are going to get emotional about where they are in the world. So you're going to see Scorpios go, where's my house? Where's my business? Where's my? How come I'm only this far in life? How come I haven't achieved this so far in life? How come he gets to get the loan and I don't get to get the loan? So Scorpios are going to get really emotional about what they have or don't have in the world. And that's their heart going, hey, how come I don't get stuff too? And what the universe is saying is, well, you need to change the way you respond to your heart. And in a lot of cases, Scorpios have cared more about other people than their own heart, which is why their heart got broken. So Scorpios are changing and shifting the way their heart does business. And they're shifting the way their heart does business so they can get the things in the world they want, so reality can be what they want it to be. Sagittarius. Sagittariuses are kind of interesting souls. Like, they go from very optimistic to very mopey, if you don't know Sages. Like, usually they don't show the mopey in public, but like they'll go from like bubbly, happily, everything's great, to like, drunk on a table, life's never going to work out. Like, they get very mopey. So their emotions aren't very secure. Their feelings aren't very stable. It's high highs and low lows, okay? And Sagittariuses are ready to shift their emotional security. It is time to have faith in your feelings instead of fear from your feelings. And what's going to happen is, very much like Scorpios, Sages are going to go, my life is heading nowhere. Where do I have to show for what I've done? What have I built in this whole amount of time? Do I even have kids yet? Do I know their names? I'm just kidding. Like, Sages travel a lot. So, but the point is that Sages are going to be emotionally kind of freaked out about where their future is going, what their legacy is, what they're going to be known for. So they're going to feel very inspired that they need to make a change. And the change, says the astrology, is how you allow yourself to mope. Yeah, when you were moping, life was passing you by. And when you were overly excited and not grounded about something, you weren't paying attention to the bills and the details. So it's really about how they manage their feelings that builds their consistency or not. So this will be a shift in how you manage your feelings inspired by your desire for the future. Okay. Capricorns. Capricorns are going to have a shift in their thinking. Okay. And it's going to be because they're going to get into this probably a full moon mopiness about, I don't know if I can make it anymore. I don't know if I believe in America anymore. I don't know if I believe in this. I don't know if I believe in that. And they're going to get into a belief structure collapse. So I think Capricorns are going to feel like everything they believed in was worthless and meaningless and not heading into anything. And that whole college degree got me nothing and that sort of thing. And really what it is it's your mind. Your mind is playing the fiddle and not being compassionate to your situation. Instead of being compassionate, you're pitying yourself. Instead of being understanding, you're blaming. Okay? So Capricorns need to have a change in the way they think. So they respond differently in their head than they normally respond. And this is because they want to believe in something. They want to believe it's going to be okay. They want to believe that it's heading somewhere. They want to believe it's adding up to something. And if you want to believe that, Capricorn, then you got to change the way you think. It has to be compassionate. It has to be non-judgmental. And that's huge for Cappies. Aquarius. Aquariuses are having a shift of their self-esteem. Okay, and I talked about this last week where Aquariuses, I think, anyone who's Aquarius in this life has some sort of karma with money, some sort of karma with abundance, okay? And really, it's going to be a fear of trust that triggers them to have faith in themselves. So for whatever reason, Aquariuses have been circular in second-guessing what they're worth. They'll believe it for a few minutes, and then like 10 minutes later, like, I don't know if I'm worth that. I don't know if anyone will pay me for that. I don't know if anyone will believe me in that. And so as a result, they have this rotating door for self-esteem. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's bad. What that does is create this issue where they can't trust anything. So they haven't been able to trust. So the full moon for them is a breakdown in trust. I don't trust myself. I don't trust this job. I don't trust where things are going. I don't trust. And that's because you are not thinking about what's valuable about you and sticking to it. You are not being compassionate about your flaws, and you're not being encouraging about your strengths. Okay, so the way your consciousness is responding to value keeps devaluing yourself. Now you have some other Aquariuses who might be on a high horse and who might be like charging $1 million for something on eBay. And so it could go the other way. It could be like, dude, get a grip. It's not worth $1 million. So this is why you're not selling anything. This is why you can't trust anything, because you haven't valued it correctly. So the way they value themselves, the time and space they take to value. Another thing for Aquarius is they never count the pennies in their piggy bank. A lot of Aquarius, I'm like, why are you valuable? They can't tell you. They don't know why they're valuable. Like, I'm not sure. In their desire to be humble, they end up erasing all of their resume. And they're not even clear on what makes them valuable or not. So in some cases, it's that they haven't taken the time and space to count their pennies and see what exactly they bring to the table as far as the gift. So Aquariuses are going to have a shift of self-esteem due to a desire to heal trusting themselves. Okay? And then Pisces. Pisces are going to have a shift in behavior. Behavior, Pisces, means how you treat yourself and how you treat others, in that order, just so you know. How you treat yourself, how you treat others. If you treat others like crap, it's because you've been treating yourself like crap. That's basically how it works in consciousness. So they're going to have a shift in behavior. And this is going to come from relationships being out of integrity. So either they have been out of integrity or they have allowed themselves to be in relationships that are out of integrity. One of the two. And what's going to happen is their relationship, and it could be their relationship to themselves. Like Pisces might go through a Virgo moment where they just hate themselves. The full moon's like, I hate myself, I hate everything about me, blah, 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 blah. Or Pisces might be like, I hate this marriage, I hate this relationship, blah, 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 blah. So the full moon is, I can't stand this relationship, either to themselves or others. And so the universe is saying, well, if you can't stand that relationship, why are you tolerating it? Behavior. Why are you putting yourself down? Behavior. Why aren't you walking out the door? Behavior. So they'll go through a shift of their behavior because they emotionally feel out of integrity with their relationships, or they seek integrity with their relationships. So, as you can hear, that is a pretty intense full moon, right? Like, there's a lot of transformation. I don't think we're going to come out of this looking the same way. In fact, check my show next week. I might look a little better. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure I'll look brighter. I've been getting brighter every day. Couple of announcements for all my friends out there. First of all, countdown to 2018. I made this amazing 3-hour webinar. You can download, actually you can watch your own copy online to the end of the year. It is now on sale for $34.95. It was $49.95. Don't miss it. It's really going to be helpful because honestly, this full moon is one of so many of the year. This whole year is about getting you onto the story you were born to live. So if you want a little foreshadow of everything you're going to go through, check it out at soulmart.me. Secondly, I want to point out that you don't have to do this daily grind alone. I've created this amazing personal Sensei service. It's advanced life coaching. Using your date of birth, I calculate what you're going to face every day, what you're going to hit every day, and I do a daily audio pep talk. So 7 days a week, I get on with my subscribers, almost like a conference call, and I'm like, okay, here's the day. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. You might be this, you might be that. And it's a great reminder because this once a week show, we'll see if you remember. But each day I can give you that encouragement. It's called the Serious Joy Personal Sensei Service. If you want to know more about it, come on down to seriousjoy.com. Then coming up, I am very honored to be co-sponsoring a oneness festival and a oneness movement. And we are having our first oneness movement. And I'm very happy to say Oneness Care is presenting a Denver Love Fest Day. This day will be on March 18th at the Mercury Cafe at 1 p.m. So just think oneness.care at 1 p.m. We're going to teach people how to feel one with themselves, how to lose that fractioning that happens. And we believe if people can feel more one within, they will feel one without. So if you live in the Denver area or happen to be passing through, you can find out more details about the oneness.care movement at oneness.care. And then finally, I know there's a lot of information, and I also know it's very hard to find people of like mind and spirit. That's why I created the Namaste Today Club on Facebook. This is a Facebook club for people who watch my show, but the cool thing is there's tarot card readers in there, there's angel light weavers in there, there's like all these people that normally you can't find in the world. So if you're at home and you feel like you're crazy, you're not alone. Come join the family. It's at namastetoday.club. All right, friends, good luck with this full moon. I'll be back in 1 week with more. And until then, remember, I love you. Live, love, be.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.